I'll call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you read the roll?
Good afternoon. Mr. Bailey. Mr. Brown. Ms. Herbert. Present. Dr. Bustles.
Here.
Mr. Brennan.
Present.
And Mr. McDowell.
Yes.
Mayor Rickaman.
Here.
Thank you.
Can we have a motion to go in executive session?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to enter into executive session for receipt of legal advice relating to matters covered by attorney-client privilege pursuant to SE Code 34782, short-term rentals, front yard parking.
All right, also like to make an amendment to that we add on item 3, that we add employment of an employee to that as well.
Second.
Admin.
Mr. Mayor, I think that item 4 is also related to employment of an employee, and we will add.
Add that to that.
Add to it, yes, sir, management, as you indicated. Thank you.
That'd be administration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, is there a motion? We got a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, could you read the roll?
Mr. Bailey.
Aye.
Mr. Brown. Aye. Ms. Herbert.
Aye.
Dr. Bustles.
Aye.
Mr. Brennan. Yes. And Mr. McDowell.
Yes.
Mayor Rickaman.
Aye, and we will be out here at 1 o'clock for a discussion on amending short-term rental regulations. And that's only for enforcement. There is no other item for that.
So moved.
Got a motion to come out of executive session. We had a second. Madam Clerk, could you read the roll?
Mr. Bailey?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Oh, aye.
Ms. Herbert? Here. Dr. Bustles?
Here.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell? Mayor Rickaman?
Aye.
Thank you.
With that, we have our
Yes.
man of the hour.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and council. We will start the city council discussion amending short-term rental regulations with a presentation from Mr. David Hatcher, Director of Code Enforcement, and Ms. Jessica Kynard, our Senior Assistant City Attorney.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Ms. Wilson. Thank you for your opportunity to represent the Code Enforcement Division today regarding short-term rental, the short-term rental ordinance and enforcement. Today, I will provide an overview of where we are with the STRs and my recommendations going forward. Following me will be Ms. Jessica Kynard, who is the Senior Assistant City Attorney, who will go over the proposed changes to the ordinance. I can figure this out. There we go. The Code Enforcement Division is made up of 29 employees, including myself. Of those employees, we have several that are assigned to our abatement crew and office staff that handle customer concerns and issues related to rental ordinances, vacant building permits. We have 21 total inspectors that are assigned various roles throughout the city. 13 are assigned to the various police regions and have a specific territory that they're responsible for addressing complaints and looking for issues when not responding to complaints. 5 inspectors are assigned to the commercial unit and are responsible for monitoring all the apartment complexes and their businesses for code violations. There are 3 inspectors assigned to rental enforcement, assessing rental points and enforcing the vacant building ordinance across the city for the over 27,000 residential rental properties, long-term rental properties. Generally, we start about 10,000 cases a year and conduct over 30,000 inspections. We're responsible for ensuring that the over 40,000 parcels within the city are kept to minimum code and that mosquito and rat population doesn't get out of control. Our work crews have abated overgrowth and litter on over 500 vacant lots and right-of-way areas, secured over 40 unsafe structures, cleaned up over 40 homeless encampments, removed over 700 tires from the streets of Columbia in the past year. We also assist the police department with many traffic duties and community events and many crime reduction initiatives, including CPTEDs, which is the crime prevention through environmental design, and concentrated enforcement in high crime areas. Lastly, we enforce the city's nuisance ordinances and the rental ordinances on over 27,000 rentals and the 446 current short-term rentals. I say all this to say we are extremely busy and tend to be the go-to department when somebody needs something done at the city. As of the date of the STR moratorium in June, when it went into effect, we had 446 registered short-term rentals and a suspected 149 that were not registered. Of the 446 registered STRs, 81 or 18% of those are owner-occupied. Based on the moratorium today, 345 or 77% of those properties would be ineligible to get an STR permit. The majority of the STRs are in Council District 3 with 160, followed by Council District 1 with 134. Council District 2 has 113, and Council District 4 has 38. The majority of the suspected non-registered STRs, based on our third-party STR data, are also in Council District 3 with 60, followed by Council District 2 with 43. Council District 1 has 34, and Council District 4 has 12.
David,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, just a quick question. How comfortable do you feel with the accuracy of the information that we're getting from the third-party vendor?
It's not 100%, I know that, because we have encountered some instances where we'll send notices to the person and they'll respond saying, well, that's not the right address. And it turns out that it may be one that's already registered. So it's not 100%. And each one of those would need to be verified.
Okay, and are there several vendors or there just a limited market on who?
No, they're actually, in my recommendations, I was gonna ask that we probably look at that.
I like
You're
it.
ahead of
Okay,
me.
I'll wait. Let me listen some more.
So the large maps you all see posted on the easels, show all the STRs based on each council district, along with the residential zoning versus the non-residential zoning districts identified. We have also provided map books, special thanks to our GIS division for making those, that break down the same information by neighborhood. It doesn't have all the neighborhoods in the city, it just has the ones that actually have STRs in case you're looking for a specific one that's not in there. In Council District 1, the 5 neighborhoods with the most STRs is Irwood, the Irwood community with 48, Hyatt Park, Keenan Terrace with 24, Elmwood Park with 23, Cottontown with 19, and Seminary Ridge with 4. In Council District 2, the 5 neighborhoods with the most STRs is University Hills with 16 registered, Old Shandon with 16, Lion Street with 13, Downtown Neighborhood Association with 8, and Arsenal Hills 7. In Council District 3, the 5 neighborhoods are Shandon with 29, Rosewood with 24, South Kilburn also with 24, Melrose Heights with 13, and tied for 5th is Hollywood Rose Hill and Wales Garden at 7 each. In Council District 4, the neighborhoods with the most STRs is Brandon Acres, Cedar Terrace with 7 registered, Heathwood Park with 3, Ashwood and Forest Hills with 2 each, followed by several other communities that only have 1 STR. The STRs that are suspected not registered, the most are in the Shannon neighborhood, and I provided the full list in your packets. You should have all that.
David, can I ask you a question? Great map production and everything. Is there a layer on our GIS, Columbia GIS, where the public can pull up the locations of short-term rentals?
We have an online mapping service for all the rentals, including long-term. I don't think it distinguishes between the two, but if you click on it, it'll tell you if it's a short-term or a long-term.
And that is through the Columbia GIS?
Correct.
That's available to the public?
Yes, sir. If you go to the police department's main website, if you go down to Public Data Initiative, there's a link to it there.
Thank you.
Generally, our enforcement priorities are complaint-driven. We respond to complaints via phone, email, neighborhood meetings, and through MyCola SE app. With our current workload, we tend to be more reactive in enforcement with the hope and dream of being more proactive someday. We do have a strong proactive presence, though. All of our inspectors are assigned a specific area to monitor in the city of Columbia. In those areas, they look for violations when they're not responding to complaints. Even with a complaint, though, most times they will address anything they see within the vicinity of the complaint while they're out there and observe violations. We've recently started using a software called City Detect, which uses cameras installed on city garbage trucks and artificial intelligence to tell us where violations are. We've mostly been using that to address violations within the city's right-of-way, such as illegal dumping, litter and debris, snipe signs, tires, and shopping carts. We plan to eventually be more proactive with our notices for other property violations in the near future as well. We also conduct about 9 quality of life neighborhood improvement sweeps a year. Those are generally at the request of the neighborhoods through community development. And the program was started about 10 years ago by City Manager Ms. Wilson. Lastly, we have several joint efforts with CPD to proactively address code violations, to include but not limited to the SEPTED program I just mentioned a minute ago. Enforcement, more specifically as it relates to STRs, is mostly complaint-driven. While we will occasionally see an issue during our proactive activities, we rely on the communities to report issues to us. We also get daily notifications from the police department whenever they have an incident at a short-term rental. As soon as we get a complaint, we take all the complaints seriously. We'll conduct an inspection to verify the violation exists. We need the verification to start the case. We got to be able to see the violation and be able to document that the violation exists. We get a lot of complaints that are not violations, however. For instance, grass is allowed to be up to 12 inches tall. It usually gets on solid at 6 inches, so you can just imagine the complaints we get. People are allowed to park their cars on the side yards, and there's no limit to how many cars anyone can have as long as they're parked properly registered and operable. Many issues reported to us are already addressed by the property owner or tenant prior to the time we actually get out to verify the violation. So we can't start a case if we get out there and the violation's already been corrected. Once we have verified a violation does exist, we will start a case, send notifications to the property owner, and we'll assess the points for the violations. The points carry a penalty of $100 per point. First offense is 1 point or $100 fine, and each offense thereafter is 5 points or a $500 fine. A serious offense gets 10 points. After 15 points, within a 12-month period, we can revoke the rental permit. We track where all the STRs through the registration process. All of the permits that we have, we can track and see where they're at. We also utilize a third-party vendor that I mentioned earlier that provides us with detailed online data that will show you the rental history, how many nights they've rented in the past year, and how much money they've collected. And finally, to my recommendations of how we can improve the overall short-term rental situation here in Columbia. For the most part, I feel like the ordinance is not the issue as much as just having the manpower to address these things. There are several things that have been brought to our attention that Ms. Conner will present to you shortly that could make the ordinance better. So I would certainly recommend that you guys approve those items to help us with our enforcement activities. Additionally, you all may want to consider that we require all approved STRs to post a sign on the building. That could be visible from the street. I think I provided an example of that in your packets of what that would look like. The chief, when I talked to him about it, he didn't necessarily like the idea of a sign. He thought maybe a decal would be better on the door or on a window. So something to consider. This will help us when we're driving around in the areas to know where the STRs are, to help the community know where they are so that we can identify violations at these locations quicker and easier, and people that are incompliant and non-compliant.
Mr. Hatcher,
Yes, sir.
have you heard any security concerns about those signs being up, whether risk of residents worrying that people know, they're a guest or other people who are looking to rob or steal from folks?
I have, when we passed the ordinance 2 years ago, I think that was one of the things that was proposed, and I think it got taken out for similar concerns. But I do know there are several other municipalities that have rental ordinances that do require that. So I think it's worth looking into.
And are those other ones, those are South Carolina cities?
Yeah, I can't quote you, I can't tell you which one specifically, but I know I've seen some that have that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I would also like for us to take a look at our case management software that we use to better serve our needs. Our case management software has a lot of issues and does not do all that we need it to do. It has limited reporting and tracking capabilities. And as Councilman Herbert mentioned, the third-party vendor that we use, I would like to explore other vendors. I know there's several other vendors out there that do the same thing. Many vendors offer more services than just giving us the data. They will update the data. They provide 24-hour hotlines that we could pay a service for so that we can have a number for people to call if there's issues. And several other services that they offer. But I think that we should really take a deep dive into what's out there and what's available to us. We also need to increase the city's ability to identify non-compliant properties, which are the most likely to be the sites of issues. Part of the problem for us is that we have all these different software applications throughout the city with different sets of data that could be useful for us in enforcement. Currently, there is nothing to link these databases together. For instance, it would be helpful for us in code enforcement to know who gets their water turned off or how much water they're using. That tells us if the property is vacant or being used. That information would be helpful. Also with animal services, anytime they write a ticket to somebody for an animal concern, which should be a point assessing his property, we don't necessarily get that information. So if we had a one-stop dashboard that showed us what everybody else is doing, we can assess those points quicker and more accurately.
Couldn't non-compliance of the project be, could refurbishing that piece of property be a part of non-compliance? Or what?
That is, yes, sir. If they're not renovating or keeping the property up, that is considered non-compliance.
Okay.
Right now, what options do we have if someone is operating non-permitted? What can you go do to?
So right now what we do is, and we've had a couple of cases where we've done this, we have to write them a summons. We can write them a summons for every day they're in violation, which carries a $500 penalty in court. The problem is you have to track them down and be able to issue the summons to do that. But we do have that ability to do that now. Also, if it's, this may be above council, but it'd be nice if there was legislation that forces these online booking sites to only allow people that are registered with us to list on their sites. I don't know if that's something that can come from city council, or if that needs to be legislation, but that would certainly help out. And lastly, the most important thing that'll help us improve the overall enforcement of the STRs is to add additional staffing that could be dedicated to do this. For instance, the summonses, that takes a lot of effort to track those people down and write a summons every day. And when you're looking at 149 properties, they're not in compliance, that's a lot of work.
David, we, very supportive of the full-time and part-time that reaches into the evenings and the weekend enforcement. We talked about potentially coming up with a direct number, a hotline specifically for STR reporting during those times. I know there's been a lot of frustrations when people have to, call 911 or to the non-emergency number to let us know about STR nuisances after hours. Please consider that moving forward as you start shaping out your team here to so that we can promote that to all neighborhoods.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Brennan, is that how you do that, or what? What's your, I'm trying to understand.
So I liken this to the surrounding impacted neighborhoods around the university. The city and the university have a ambassadors program that works evenings and weekends to really make sure that the wonderful students are interacting as good neighbors. And so they have a direct cell phone number that goes to a on-call ambassador, and the ambassadors just happen to be our code enforcement team working hand in hand with the university. So we have the structure in place, the success story of how that could work. I think applying it to this as a broader reach to all neighborhoods, because we all know STRs are in every neighborhood in the city. So the same kind of template.
I had one other question. I just thought about this, Mr. Hatcher. Is it clear that people who have complaints know where to call? I do know recently I had a lot of correspondence between a neighbor and the owner of the Airbnb, but not necessarily any correspondence with the city regarding the problems that they were having. And it just made me kind of think about, do we make it really clear if you're observing these problems, here's who or what, or who you're supposed to call? Is that clear?
I guess I think it's clear, but I don't know if I can answer for the average person. We do get a lot of complaints through our phone, through our general phone number, the code enforcement number. We get a lot of complaints through MyCola SC, not necessarily short-term rental related, but people know how to get in touch with us. I guess they may not have made the connection that we're the right department to contact, so that might require an education campaign or a marketing campaign to make sure that's out there. But I like the idea of the 24-hour hotline, because I think once we start putting that out there, people are just going to know, hey, I don't need to call code enforcement in the city. I just need to call this hotline, and it's going to get my information to where it needs to go. So I guess that would be the benefit of having that.
David, can I ask a question? So I guess I'm struggling with trying to understand. So if I have a neighbor to the left of me that has a long-term rental, and I have a neighbor to the right of me that has a short-term rental, and I have a neighbor across the street that owns his own house. So if all three of them had a party, I would do something different to report each one of them?
So those vendors that offer the 24-hour hotline, they'll do it for short-term and long-term rentals, so that may take care of two of those issues.
So my neighbor across the street, though, I can't complain about him?
Honestly, I don't see why you couldn't complain about everything through there, because it'll still get to us and will be up to us to determine if it's actually short-term rental or not.
Why wouldn't we just deal with the concept that every short-term rental should have a permit to be in compliance, and then the rules are the rules? So the rules for the long-term rental and the rules for the short-term rental and the rules for my neighbor that I don't like across the street, why wouldn't they all just be the same?
I mean, they technically are, I guess, in the sense of a party, though. I mean, the party, the rental ordinance gives us more recourse.
Suppose you're just playing loud music at 11 o'clock at night, and I'm trying to get some sleep because I've had a hard day at work.
That would still be a violation, and the police would actually would always respond to that and address that on, if that happens. With the rental ordinance, we have more action we can take after that, so we can hopefully prevent it from happening in the future. With the owner, after so many times, we could pursue the nuisance ordinance, which is sometimes hard to do with the property owner, but there's just, It's still a violation. There's just different avenues we would have to take to enforce
Would
those.
the long-term rental be the same avenue as a short-term rental, or we're going to have two different avenues now?
Most of the enforcement activities we do on long-term is the same as the short-term.
So both are the same. Both would be the same, right?
For the most part, the point,
Short-term and long-term.
the way that we built the point system and the violation system is modeled exactly after each other. So it's the same 15 points for short-term rental and 15 points for long-term rental, and the same types of violations.
So you would, don't want to put words in your mouth, so there's really no difference from an enforcement from a long-term rental versus a short-term rental?
And as far as enforcement, possibly not. I think short terms are more like a business, and they have more a higher turnover with residents.
Well,
So I think it's more of an issue.
by definition, that's true.
By definition, yeah.
It's a short-term rental, so you have to have more turnover than a long-term rental by
Yeah.
definition, so. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Did you have anything, Ian?
No, I'm not.
So I'll jump to the point on that. So my recommendation for the staffing is one full-time person that specifically deals with the short-term rentals, works regular hours. They're the ones that are tracking people, making sure they've gotten in compliance, identifying the ones that have not gotten in compliance, and sending the notices out and making sure the points are getting assessed and receiving the complaints. My proposal would be to also have two part-time employees, and kind of, as Councilman Brennan said, they would kind of act as like the USC ambassadors. They'll work evenings and weekends, and we'll have them out patrolling where the known STRs are and making sure they're in compliant and not having parties. If they're having parties, we'll have it addressed on the spot, and that'll give us real-time enforcement instead of having to wait, for a party that happens Friday night. Right now, we don't hear about it until Monday. We can't address it until Monday. But if we have somebody who's out there that could be called to the scene and they can address it real time. And it doesn't have to be just parties, but front yard park, anything that they see would be addressed during that time frame.
Officer Hatcher, let's say the part-time person gets a call 2 o'clock in the morning to look into a party. Law enforcement will go with them there, right? Not just,
Oh, definitely, we would take law enforcement with us. Anytime we have any concern about a location, we would bring law enforcement with us.
thank you.
Sir.
Did that same person go to the long-term rental at 2 o'clock in the morning?
So I don't see any reason why we couldn't have them addressing any code violations that we have in the city, but with the concentration on short-term rentals. Because we do get a lot of complaints about front yard parking and stuff that happens after hours. So I don't see why we couldn't utilize these positions to address anything that's of concern during those hours, specifically short-term rentals.
Clarifying point would certainly be short-term and long-term under the same umbrella, right?
The points, yeah, the points are monitored, they're mirrored from one ordinance to the next, same thing.
Mr. Hatcher, what current staffing do you have now? Do you have dedicated staff people for STRs or long-term rentals, or this will be the first time that you're able to have designated staff?
So right now, we have 3 staff members that are assigned to long-term rentals, and they're kind of the ones that are also working with the short-term rental stuff. So as you know, with 27,000 rental properties, the 446 kind of gets lost in the workload. So what I'm proposing, have somebody, that's their job, is to deal with the short-term rental specifically.
And do you feel confident that we'll be able to fill those positions?
I believe so. We've been pretty good about filling most of our positions. We have 2 vacancies now, but we're interviewing, and we're always having applicants, and I feel confident those are going to be filled soon. So I don't see an issue with that. The part-time ones, I'm not sure, because that's a new thing, but I've been approached by retired code enforcement officers that say, hey, if you offer a part-time job, I'd come back. So I see that maybe a benefit for some of the retirees coming back, or anybody else who's willing to work those kind of hours.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hatcher, would you agree that these positions are priority positions to fill?
Absolutely.
And that maybe we can cut the HR timeline in a little bit to get your team together to really get out there for the enforcement purposes quickly?
I mean, that'd be at the discretion of Ms. Wilson, but I do feel it'd be important for us to, as quick as I've heard the mayor and you all say you want us to get immediate impact, the quicker we can fill the positions, the better, obviously.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions for David?
That was the end of my part. I'm going to turn it over to Jessica.
Next.
Thank you, David and council. Get to my section. So basically what I'm going to do is just go through the highlighted ordinance draft that's been published and that you have before you page by page. So the first highlighted change that we have proposed is in the definition section of responsible local representative. In all of these slides, the red and underlined portion is what we are adding or amending. So in this one, there was a suggestion that we add that whoever is the responsible local representative must also receive and maintain a property manager license through the South Carolina Real Estate Commission, which I believe is under the umbrella of LLR. And this is even if the property is owner occupied, and the responsible local representative may be the property owner or his or her designee. So certainly it could be a property management company or a private citizen that is hired to be the local representative, as long as they are within the 45 miles of the city, of the property, and possess the property manager license. The next change on this page is further down in subsection 2, business license required. We changed the or to and. This is contemplating that there are two different entities, meaning there is a property owner and a property manager of some form. And in this case, both entities will be required to get a business license because they are earning income in two different capacities. On the next page, we look at minimum guest age.
Sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to make sure I'm clear on this, but if it is a situation where there is not, the owner is the responsible local representative, they only need one business license.
That is correct. That's my understanding. Yes. Minimum guest age, this is a suggestion to bump it up to 25 years of age. There are some restrictions that I've found in Airbnb in particular. For example, individuals under the age of 25 cannot rent an entire home. They can only rent, for example, a room in a home. So this would take that a little further and just say that within the city limits, you have to be 25 to rent a short-term rental at all. Another suggestion.
Does that, excuse me?
Yes, sir.
How does that compare comparatively with 25 years of age comparatively to other cities?
We would not be the first ones, certainly. We wouldn't be the first ones. Generally, it is 18 years of age, it's age of majority. There are some cities that have it at 21, some have 25. Generally, because most rental platforms and most other of these types of transactions just consider you to need to be 18. So this would be a little bit stricter, but certainly not out of the realm of possibility, or we wouldn't be the first. Okay? We've also discussed the minimum stay duration, making that 2 nights instead of 1. Moving on, we are looking at parking spots. This is to cut down on the number of parking spots that would be required to be street parking. In other words, each property must have at least 2 parking spots, and they cannot be parking on the street. Certainly, this will not prevent anybody that rents the short-term unit from parking in street spaces, but it does require that the provider of the property has 2 parking spaces available. Next, we're looking at occupancy and capacity. This change is focused on making sure that the appropriate number of people are in the property. This is also a move to help curb the use of any properties as a party establishment. So we keep the requirement that the capacity cannot exceed 2 persons per bedroom, excluding minor children, plus an additional 2 people per dwelling unit. So that would be to anticipate perhaps somebody sleeping on a couch. We don't want to outlaw that.
Just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
So I get that, and I would be supportive of that. But it really doesn't stop somebody from having a party, because if I have 4 bedrooms, I have 8 people staying there, I can invite 40 people to come over, right?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
There's only so much we can do. And we've also added that this occupancy should apply 24 hours a day. So that considers, for example, if you wanted to have 40 people over for a baby shower at 2 in the afternoon, that would still be in violation, even though we calculate this number by how many people can sleep. Because that's the industry standard is 2 people per room, plus an extra 2. Next, we get to the neighbor notification.
Room
I'm sorry?
plus or in addition to 40 persons occupying that same space, right?
If you have more than whatever that 2-person factor number is, so we don't have a house in the city that would hold 40 people. So 40 people would always be a violation.
Now, it could be very well less than 40, but anything over than 8 persons, would that not be?
You have a 3-bedroom, it's 2 people per
people
bed,
per
plus
bedroom,
you got 1 sleeper sofa per se, so that's how you get to 8.
And that's 8.
Yes, sir. In a 3-bedroom, it would be 8 people. So more than 8 at any time would be a violation.
All right.
Neighbor notification. We've worked more of a neighbor notification process into the ordinance in 2 different places. So this is one of the requirements to maintain your permit. And it includes, the red part is in addition to what's already existing. This is not replacing anything, it's just adding. So it adds in that same paragraph, that a phone number that goes to the responsible local representative or someone else if necessary, but that's what is envisioned. That person needs to be someone who is both willing and able to answer calls and deal with issues directly. So that is envisioned as if, say for example, someone does call code enforcement or law enforcement, their next call would be to this local representative at any time, day or night, and that person needs to be willing and able to answer the phone and show up and help if needed. And as that last sentence says, further down, we've added that into the permitting process. Before we get to that, there's one thing in between, which is local guest screening. This is another attempt to prevent parties, because the research has found that most of the properties that have had issues with the large parties are properties that are rented by people that live within city limits or very close by. So we've added the 30-mile suggestion in there, saying that if a host notices that a booking is coming from somebody that lives within 30 miles of the property, they must require additional verification to ensure the property is being used for a legitimate overnight stay. So certainly, that puts the onus on the host. It says that the host has to ask. If the host thinks this is a valid stay, say somebody lives in Newberry and they say, I just want to come in overnight so I'm closer for the football game. The host can still rent that out. But that puts the onus on the host to try and cut down at least on the number of parties or inappropriate events that are held at these types of properties. Next, going into permitting. As I mentioned, this is nearly verbatim of the neighbor notification portion above. It just says that this information to neighbors has to be provided during the permitting process. So we're going to require proof that anyone who wants to get a short-term rental permit has informed their neighbors, has provided that contact information, and that the neighborhood is fully aware of the anticipated property moving in.
And if David, if we're able to give what we want with David to have the ability to have the folks on the nights and weekends, much like we've done with the ambassador program, will eliminate a lot. So it gives direct contact to the folks, the code enforcement folks, as agents as that. I still think we want that as part of that application process, especially on the renewal. Because if they change any information, we want it to be current. And I do think we need to make sure that we enhance that as part of it, that if you don't update the information, that's gonna be a violation. Because we have seen that where things have changed hands and permits and others, and folks have not updated that information.
Yes, sir, and that is specifically referenced in the subsection 15 above, that the information must be provided during the permitting application process and kept updated at all times. So that is,
I'm sorry.
Yes,
So
sir.
are we asking the neighbors to be like quasi-compliance officers?
No, we're telling them that if they have a problem, they've got two places to call. One is the owner who should be taking responsibility, the other is
For the place.
us, enforcing the laws.
Just like if they were regular neighbors,
Yep,
right?
yep. No difference if they're long-term or short-term, but we're actually putting a number in, much like we did at the university with the ambassador program.
and I think my interpretation and the thought behind this section is basically, you know this is a short-term rental, so it might be better for you to call code enforcement instead of calling 911. You might get a response faster, but more than anything is to just have people aware. The next change is under violations. We've added a catch-all section, basically saying the repeated incidents of the property or properties being used to host, I'm sorry, I'm skipped ahead on my description, but this is adding another violation category, that repeated incidents of hosting parties or other neighborhood disturbances. Those are considered violations. Then we get to the catch-all section, which is a new section under 5407, Section D. Nothing in this section shall prevent the police chief from immediately revoking a permit due to any extreme behavior. We included acts of violence, discovery of unsafe living conditions, discovery of illegal activity, and the like. So that would allow the police chief or his designee to immediately pull a short-term rental permit. And that could be after one incident. Those are the proposed changes to the ordinance as they currently stand. Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question? I read and I think I understand it. What does extreme infractions?
Well,
I mean, how extreme, what's extreme infractions?
that language leaves it in the discretion of the chief of police or his designee. So for example, an act of violence, perhaps a shooting, would be an extreme example, an example of violence.
Multiple calls of service.
Yeah, okay.
Same thing that when you got an area, much like one of the convenience stores or one of those places that had so many service of calls that it became a nuisance. Same thing we would use with others, but this allows us to pull the permit because there's no language that allows you to do that otherwise.
So a nuisance call would say, the chief could say in reference to a nuisance call to pull the permit.
I think that would be more under the prior section, the repeated incidents. So not this screen, but the one.
Repeated incidences, okay.
To go to the mayor's point, the nuisance issue, I think it would require repeated calls of annoyance or nuisance or noise or something
Right.
that would invoke that section, but something major, like a major crime, would be an immediate revocation.
Right.
That's my understanding of why this was desired to phrase that way.
Not a murder or a killing, it could be a nuisance,
Right.
several
But if it's
nuisances.
something else,
Yeah.
then he has the ability, the authority to make that judgment call.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. Thank you, ma'am.
Is there anything else or any questions?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Kiner, I have a question for you. So the responsible local representative, if you are a owner-occupied short-term rental
Yes, sir.
host, you live in the front house, rent out your garage apartment, it is not the intent to have those folks go through the property manager license, real estate commission process, is it?
It is, the way it's
So
currently
if,
phrased.
so if I'm a mom and pop that live in a house and I rent out my garage, we're asking them to go to take property management courses to get their property management license?
That is the way this is proposed, this is phrased, yes, sir.
Gotcha, gotcha. And then my last question, this might be a David Hatcher question. We have certain life safety standards that hosts have to provide, fire extinguishers, alarms, and everything. That is at the discretion of the city to go and check if they would like. That's not part of the application certification process, is it?
It is required in the permitting process that the owner has read all applicable city regulations and is aware of penalties, and it's a separate requirement that the buildings must comply with code.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
those kind of work together.
So we're going off their good faith that they're providing.
We're going on good faith unless and until we have a reason to believe otherwise.
Perfect, thank you.
Ms. Kennard, I think what I'm trying to understand is a lot of the consequences for doing things the wrong way has to do with whether or not you get a permit to operate, right? But we're also seeing that people are operating without a permit anyway.
Yes.
Are there any current ordinances that we can use? Like, I'm unclear on what the enforcement mechanism is if you're operating in bad faith and not even going to go through the permit process for us to then be able to make a decision about whether or not you can keep it.
So right now, the failure of an STR owner to obtain a permit, so this is in accordance with the provisions of this section, within 15 days after notice of noncompliance. So when code enforcement reaches out and says, hey, you're not in compliance, they have 15 days, and then it results in an administrative penalty of $500. And that can be reassessed every day that they are not in compliance.
Every
Also-
day you said that they're not compliant?
Right. It would be
I didn't,
but they can issue a summons every
say
day.
again, TK, I didn't hear that.
To repeat what she said that you have to give them an opportunity to come into compliance. But after that opportunity is passed, every day that they are not,
Okay.
yeah, every day they're not in compliance is a new violation.
So Jessica, have we ever collected $500 from anybody?
That would be Mr. Hatcher's department, I don't know.
Mr. Hatcher, have we ever collected $500 from anybody?
I believe we have a few times, but not very often.
Right, so I guess my question then is, there's, and I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but there's 100 plus that are not operating in compliance. With these changes, plus what's already on the books, what is our plan to make sure that we either don't let them operate or give them the chance to go through the process of getting a permit?
So my goal with the additional staff is we would have the manpower to actually go after these people and write the summonses and issue the fines. That just takes a lot of time to do.
I also think we need to make sure that we are sending all of our information to Airbnb, because one of the, requirements is supposed to be, if you go to look, that they're supposed to have a permit to show on their website and part of their application process with Airbnb. And we need to make sure Airbnb is not advertising somebody who doesn't have a permit from the city of Columbia. That also allows us to point out to Airbnb, if somebody has an application for a 3-bedroom and they have 10 people maximum, but they've turned it into a bunkhouse, that they shouldn't allow them to advertise either. You can't advertise 24 people to spend the night if you only have a permit for 10. So there's some things that we need to work with Airbnb as well on the advertising.
So what I'm afraid of is that we're conflating issues. So in my opinion, I'm pro-compliance, I'm pro-extra staffing. I'd like to see us concentrate on the 149 non-compliant STRs for permits versus introducing a whole bunch of new rules that we're going to get sidetracked trying to enforce on the people who are compliant. So, it's a little bit like, when you go through TSA and someone takes your nail clippers. And somehow we've decided that we just saved the plane from going down because someone took my nail clippers. So I'd rather see us focus on the non-compliant STRs, primarily only the concept of the permit. And if we get those people out of here, then I think we'd be better off versus trying to have a bunch of arbitrary rules for the people who are compliant.
That certainly makes sense. And Dr. Bustles, another factor to answer to your question is that generally these people that don't have permits probably don't have business licenses either. And that's another way we can go about enforcement. It's the same thing. It's another $500 a day after a notice period. And for better or worse, it also goes back to code enforcement to issue those summons. So that's another reason for a little bit more manpower there.
I'm looking forward to getting an email from somebody that says the city's charged me $500 a day for the last 57 days straight. So I hope I get that one.
Anything else I can provide? Thank you.
Do we have a sign-up sheet, Madam Clerk?
Sir, and at this point, 3 individuals have signed up to speak. You ready for public input?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we will remind speakers that as your name is called, you will have 3 minutes to speak, and the timer will help to keep you on track. First, it looks like we have Mr. Justin Barslow.
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for giving me a few minutes to speak. My name's Justin Barstow. I live at 2225 Rembert Street. I live right next door to 2221 Rembert, which is one of the short-term rentals that's often cited as, a bad example, advertised as a 22-person, lots of parties going on there. I've been a resident of Elmwood Park for about 15 years or so and just moved next to this one about a year ago. So a couple things I wanted to point out today is a few of the things that are in the new ordinance that we really like. I'm also part of a short-term rental team that we've put together in Elmwood Park to kind of get together some input from the community on kind of what we'd like to see in the ordinance. And some of the things around the occupancy clarification being 24 hours a day and not just the folks that are staying overnight. I think that's a really good thing that will help kind of limit some of the parties and things that we'll see. The explicit statement of parties being a violation, and if there's multiple instances of that they can be pulled the permit. I think that'll help a lot too. There's a couple of other things that I think are important to put in there and to consider. One would be we'd like to see a cap on the number of short-term rentals that are non-owner occupied in our neighborhoods downtown, specifically for Elmwood Park. Recommend freezing at current levels. You saw some of the numbers earlier. We've got 23, it looks like, in Elmwood that are operating legally, it looks like. And we'd like to get a cap so that there's no more of these coming onto the market that really detract from the quality of the neighborhood. And then I'd like to also put up for consideration a total occupancy cap of the lower of what was just discussed in the ordinance, the 2 per bedroom or an 8 total. Because I think just having lower numbers within these short-term rentals can limit a lot of the parties and the noise disturbances and traffic disturbances that we see, especially with the one that I live next to. One of the things that we see is just the non-owner occupied short-term rentals that are, especially the larger ones, are just really incompatible with what we see in our neighborhoods. They operate as really hotels with no front desk.
Hold
no
on one
staff.
second, Justin, I'm sorry. Siren is so loud, I'm not hearing you,
Yeah.
which is not a good thing that it's going somewhere, but hopefully it's nothing serious. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
and-
sorry.
Just, and I know I'm running out of time, just really quickly, the other thing about, there's a lot in the ordinance about enforcing, communication between the neighbors and the operators or the owners. And I think in talking with the situation that I've had, I can address something with a guest that's there and tell them not to park across my driveway or not to throw trash over the fence, but that person's gone the next day. And then a new guest comes in. So really it's the violations and the accruing of points that really help kind of permanently solve the situation. It's not really addressing it with the guest that's there that time because they're gone. So it's very different from a long-term rental. Short-term rentals are very different for neighbors that live next to them than a long-term rental. So that's my time.
Justin, and based on that statement, having those nights and weekends would really help that situation.
Yeah, definitely.
So that you have somebody you actually can call who can monitor and then be there to make sure that
Yeah, 'cause
things are
that's
being
been an issue.
addressed, much like, garbage and other things. And there's some things that we have to do on that side as well. But I do think having that, we've seen a great improvement in the university neighborhood with those folks on call. So I think that's going to be a good step to eliminate some of the issues that are out there.
Yeah, that'll be positive, definitely.
Thank you.
Justin, okay, so the short-term rental next to you is the owner, do you know the owner?
Yeah, I met the owner recently. He's from California. He owns 10,000 properties, he told me, across the country. He's an LLC investor that buys properties and has local or regional operators that
A
manage them.
reasonable guy?
Not sure. Don't know him because he lives in California. I just met him.
So if there was a party going on at the short-term rental, would you call him?
No, I'd report it to the city.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Just a couple of questions, because I think your
got
example
licensed.
was one where I know I saw a lot of communication between you and the owner,
The operator.
the operator.
Operators who I was communicating with.
And so I'm trying to make sure I'm clear, and maybe David can help, but if this is the situation where you call and report the trash, the renter this weekend through trash, that should be a violation, checking. And then the next weekend, if the same rental but different people do it, I just want to make sure I'm clear that that should accumulate. So that, I mean, you will have to tell a couple of people, but once it accumulates, you shouldn't have to, because we should shut it down.
Yeah, I think my point is that addressing individual guest issues isn't really going to solve anything because that guest doesn't come back to that property. And they're not, whereas with a long-term rental, if there's an issue, and I have one right across the street from me, a long-term rental, and there's been issues with parking or just situations, and you can address it with that tenant because they're a neighbor. They live there for a year. You can make a difference in that communication. With a short-term rental guest, they're gone the next day or maybe 2 days later, and so you can't
But the
really.
ownership is still there. You're really targeting, I mean, honestly, you're targeting the operator and the ownership. But we need to document. I think what I'm saying is some of those situations you might need to let code enforcement handle.
For sure, yeah.
So that it's documented so that you can accumulate the points.
And David's been very helpful in responding. We actually got the one shut down temporarily during the moratorium because they were operating illegally. So I really do appreciate how responsive code enforcement's been on that one.
Keep it documented so you can get your points.
Just more curious, so the long-term rentals in your neighborhood, is there ever a problem with the long-term renter?
Sure. There's problems with permanent neighbors too.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's how I bought the house next door to me. So yeah, I get it. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, it's, at least with the short-term guy, you only got him for a weekend. With the long-term guy, you got him for forever. So, it's interesting. How do you deal with the long-term problem different than the short-term problem?
I think there's more chance to address behavior and build a relationship. And I think most people are generally reasonable about stuff. So I think if it's a long-term guest or a long-term renter, you can at least make a chance to try to address something with that. Whereas with a short-term, it's just a churning of a hotel, basically. New guest in, new guest out each week, each day.
Also curious, the short-term, how often is it rented?
The one next to me was, I would say, 90% of the time.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So mostly, how many nights? I'm asking questions that you may or may not know, and that's fine.
I've been there a year, and I would say it was 90% of the time occupied during the week, weekends.
So
the time.
the two-night minimum, do you like that or not?
I don't think it makes a lot of difference, to be honest, because I think a lot of operators do want people in there longer anyway. I've seen a trend toward, multi-night stays where they're trying to limit that because they just don't want the cleaning fees. And
Yeah, no, I get it.
that. Yeah, so I don't know that that makes a huge difference, but
I mean, I've got a couple rentals and they're paying no matter what, to be honest with you. So, yeah, you got to really want to do it,
yeah.
for sure. Okay, thanks.
Great. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
Next, we have Miss Ellen Bundy.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm glad to see that you're addressing this issue. I think it's really gotten out of hand. I think short-term rentals should be treated more like a hotel. and pay the fees and have more oversight than they have, though I know you're trying to do that. 2-night stays, I think that's a great idea. I live in Elmwood Park, and I feel that short-term rentals take housing away from ordinary folks. I mean, they make a lot of money. What is it? Last time I looked, it was a minimum of $400 a night. I mean, that's a lot of money. So I think the license fee should go up. I also think that the violations, I mean, recent incident in Elmwood Park, I understand there were no points towards anybody. So you need the staff, you need the money, and I think these people should help pay for that. So I think he said we have 25 in Elmwood Park. We have more than that. So I just hope most of the changes I agree with. I think we should have a cap in residential neighborhoods. And I hope things will improve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ben Johnson.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Ben Johnson. I'm a partner in a short-term rental management firm called BR Guest. We manage a number of properties around the Midlands, both in Columbia, West Columbia, Lake Wateree, Blythewood. There are definitely a number of things in this ordinance that I like a lot. I think the capacity restrictions will really go a long way. I certainly sympathize with Justin. House advertising 22 people to sleep, that's excessive. That absolutely should not be allowed. And then also having the 24 hours. We have, one of our homes has a swimming pool, and so we have people all the time, they're like, oh, I want to have, my kid who's here and his fraternity, and I tell them no, because I don't want to clean up after them, but being able to say, yeah, that's illegal, that would help me out a lot. There are two things, though, that I do feel are just kind of punitive. First is requiring everyone to be a licensed property manager. I'm a realtor, I'm a licensed property manager, I have a property management firm. This would be great for my business, amazing for my business, because I believe you said 82% of the short-term rentals in Columbia are owner occupants. Guarantee you none of them have a property manager's license. And when you get a property manager's license, you learn how to, manage an escrow account. It reemphasizes you can't discriminate against people. None of that is going to be helpful to prevent parties, create safer living conditions, or anything like that that's not already within the code. And so it's just going to make it harder for those people to monetize their asset. The other piece is the 2-night minimum versus the 1-night minimum. We get a lot of business, of course, from football games, from graduations. We also get a lot of snowbirds that come down, which are the best clients you can have, because you get a couple in their Subaru Outback with their dog. They drive down from Ohio. We're halfway between Ohio and Miami. They're gonna
On their way to Hilton Head?
Oh my, yeah, South Florida, man, it's crazy. And they arrive at 5, they walk to dinner at Za's Pizza, they're gone by 5 o'clock the next morning, they're amazing. All those people will now go to West Columbia.
Do you see those folks during the weekday or weekend?
Both.
Both.
And that's the best, I don't see them. They're coming in late, they're leaving early. And the people that do have parties, the times where I've had to go break up a party, and again, we have capacity restrictions. We have rules. We don't allow parties. I don't want to clean up after them. The problem is not the people who follow the rules. The problem is always the people who break them. And what do you do then? The people who break them, Fort Jackson graduations. Family usually comes on a Monday. They leave on a Thursday.
You go ahead.
Sometimes they decide we want to have some folks over on a Wednesday night and really celebrate this graduation. and all that. So the 2-night restriction is not going to eliminate that problem, but it will dramatically hurt my business for folks that are actually good guests who do spend money in restaurants and shops and all in Columbia, and that would knock those people out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
No one else has signed up to speak.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Hatcher, can I ask you a couple questions from the testimony or the public hearing we just heard? What percentage did you tell us is owner occupied of all the STR?
18.
So it's 18% of the total 400
81
and,
units, I think.
Yes, sir.
okay.
81.
So 81 of the total are folks that live in their house, maybe rent out their garage.
Or house.
Yeah, true. Maybe they live in the garage,
They
rent
live
out
in
their
the
house.
garage.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want us to take a look at this requirement for that 17% to have a property manager's license. To Ben's point, I think that severely limits them on income for that. And I just think it's a lot for
Well,
them
they're
to.
limited anyway, right? Because owner occupied can only have up to 70, I think it's 70 nights a year without them losing their tax status.
Right, so, but we're still saying regardless.
And I agree with that, yeah.
Okay,
That's not
just something
inhibiting
for us
their
to
money.
look at, if you don't mind, David. Thank you.
Just for clarity, Mr. Brennan, do you want him to look at it, or do you want him to?
Well, I guess that's the question
Amend it
today. Are
or
we
change
taking
it.
this forward today? What is for enforcement's sake, I think we should. How do we make edits?
Well, we can have first reading today and then make edits as we get into second reading. I do think we need to have this in place going into the fall. I think waiting and not having it in place getting into prime rental would be a mistake, especially you want to make sure that Mr. Hatcher has time to get folks into place, because I do think the nights and weekends are going to help alleviate a lot of the issues that we're receiving. You know, I think we can tweak this thing based on.
If an amendment right now would help, then that would be
I
great.
got an email earlier from a couple who rents out their ADU. They're like almost 90% of the people who stay here one night. They're traveling through. I got consistent folks. They suggested it be Monday through Friday, weekends too. So I think there's a couple things that I think we need some more input on. I think the regulatory side, we want to make sure, Mr. Hatcher has the ability to do what he needs to do. And I agree with Mr. Brown. We really need folks focused on the folks that are operating illegally, because some of the cases that have been brought before us, the troubled properties are actually those people. And that's being able to review those applications, making sure the people on the applications are actually the people who own the property as well.
So for the recommendation changes by Mr. Hatcher, is that a separate vote than the short-term rental proposed ordinance changes by Ms. Kiner?
We could take them both and then amend it before second reading, which we would do on August 19th if we took the vote today.
Yeah, I want to prioritize staffing, software enhancements, really to as we talked about going forward. So
I think that's where I am too, Councilman Brennan. If there's any way we could, I guess, parse it where we could get the enforcement that David needs to get started. But I think it'll be easier on a read if it's just, maybe we make the suggestions today that how we would like to change the ordinance, and then when it comes down to a vote, maybe the first time it's clear and it's on paper. I just worry sometimes about stuff being misquoted. I know you do a great job, Madam Clerk, over there. I just would rather have.
You question
read.
my clerk now.
I'm not questioning you, not at all.
I have a problem.
She's the best in the state. We all know that. But I think it'll be easier if we could maybe go through some of those changes today. Maybe there could be notes taken about that. It come back to us, and then we vote on it.
Well, we're not voting right now anyway.
Yes, that's right, yeah, later.
This will be during the regular meeting. This is just our opportunity for discussion.
Well, maybe if we
Public
discuss it
input.
now, we can make those changes, and then when we vote at 4 o'clock, if it's documented, I think that'll be fine.
And Mr. Mayor and Mr. Bailey and council, Mr. Brennan, who are bringing up the specifics about the staffing recommendations and the software enhancements. Of course, those aren't things that are articulated in the ordinance changes anyway. Those are things
You're already
that,
working on that, I know.
right, well, we've taken under advisement, and you can rest assured we'll be moving forward, so.
But I do think it would be good for us to try to, if we can amend and get it done, I really think we've got to get this piece done prior to Labor Day weekend. So between this meeting and next meeting, we need to have that reading done. Is there any other comments?
Can I ask a couple questions?
Yes. Jessica?
What some folks have kind of brought back from neighborhoods, questions about the proposed ordinance. So the questions around the local representative, and forgive me if this has been asked, would real estate licenses also be accepted there? Do
I
we
don't
need to
see why
include
not.
that?
It's my understanding that real estate licenses include property management training.
Okay.
So I believe, and I need to verify, but I believe it could be either or.
Okay. And then there were a couple of folks that mentioned that operate STRs that their third-party booking sites don't allow them to enforce the 25 years of age minimum that we're proposing. Have we thought about how we would ask them to do that, besides just kind of honor system? Is there a mechanism within the ordinance that we could do that?
That's a good question. That's something I'll certainly look into as we go through this. I know that they are also sometimes restricted in when they can ask for ID, for example, but I do believe that enforcing age restrictions when they exist is one of those instances.
They could put that as part of their listing. I mean, if you're dictating when somebody checks in and when they check out and their requirements of what they're supposed to do with the towels, you certainly can put in there saying, you know, if you're under 25, we're not going to rent to you. I mean, for somebody to say that's not an option, I'm not sure that's 100%, but let's verify that.
Yeah, and then for places that, like, say someone has a property and has, you know, they live there, but then they have 2 Airbnb units. To clarify, they would have to apply for 2 permits for the same address.
Yes.
Even though it's on the same address. So it's the
Right.
number of units, not the,
Not the
Not the
address,
address.
because it would be like, 201A, 201B,
Be like a
something like
duplex,
that.
both
However-
sides.
okay. I think that was it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, I'm going to entertain a motion to go back in executive session to receive legal advice before our meeting. I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, Madam Clerk?
To state for the record that you're going back into executive session for items 3 and 4.
Yes, I'm sorry. Those are all legal cases that are before us.
And 1.
And one, employment of employee.
Yes. Thank you. Mr. Bailey? Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Ms. Herbert?
Aye.
Dr. Bustles?
Aye.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. McDowell? Mayor Rickaman?
Aye.
Thank you.